Lesson 19. Before we get to the introduction of pranayama, we have the final chakra to discuss. You have heard a lot about this chakra already. It's Sahasrara chakra, which is the crown chakra. The crown chakra, it represents everything that yoga is trying to pursue. Everything in yoga is designed to open up the crown chakra, so that all those wonderful characteristics that are located in the crown chakra are allowed to manifest, so that we can start expressing love, unconditional love, wisdom, intuition, but also inspiration. The crown chakra is what is considered the spirit. Inspiration, which is an English word, originally comes from Latin, from in spiritus. So to be inspired really means to be in the spirit. What happens when you're inspired? You're not thinking. You are kind of guided from above. It's not you who is expressing yourself, but it's a higher power, in fact, that is channeling their insights, their wisdom, their creativity through you. Inspired, in spiritus, in the spirit. So inspiration comes from the crown chakra. If the crown chakra is not active, not fueled by energy, inspiration simply will not come, will not occur. And that applies to all the other characteristics. Wisdom, deep insight, vision also. They only occur when the crown chakra is functioning. The crown chakra, we call it a crown chakra. Why is it a crown chakra? It's a very interesting symbolism that you see around the world in all cultures. That is, people who are considered to be leading the country, leading societies. Since time immemorial, they have presented themselves with some form of headgear, some form of crown on their head, which is symbolism for a person who has an open crown chakra. Because a leader, a real leader, a king or a queen, an emperor or an empress, or any leader for that matter, including a director of a company, president of a company, or any kind of leader, is only a real leader when they work based on the qualities of the crown chakra. So you're unbiased, so you're unjudgmental, so that you treat everybody equal, whether they are rich or poor. People who have no functioning of the crown chakra simply do not possess those characteristics. So people of royal families from birth are being trained and conditioned. They are surrounded by mentors who prepare them for their future leadership as king, queen, or any form of leader, by providing an environment and a training that nurtures or that leads to the opening up of the crown chakra. Raja Yoga Is yoga to train Raj, a king? Is royal yoga? It does exactly that. And it may all sound very mysterious or symbolical or idealistic, but every yoga practitioner that practices yoga correctly, already from the very beginning. Last week I mentioned the heart. It starts functioning almost immediately in the yoga practitioner, just because you change the energy household. And the same with the crown chakra. From the very beginning, you start noticing increased consciousness, which is crown chakra. And it is directly linked with the heart, because the heart is in fact the representative. The crown chakra manifests itself through the heart. And of course, in the beginning, these new developments are light, are not so spectacular yet, not so big yet. But over time, of course, they will consolidate and deepen and strengthen more and more, until even it becomes a natural way of functioning. If you practice yoga on a regular basis for a certain period of time, an extended period of time, it becomes a new way of functioning. Your functioning will be based on the functioning of the crown chakra, with the other chakras in fact as secondary support troops, so to speak. It's the seventh chakra. We have expressions and even commercial products that refer to the seventh chakra. The reason why it is used in commercial products is because it subconsciously makes a link with a concept that we call paradise. Paradise or heaven. The meditating person who is fully established in the crown chakra has a very deep sense of peace. And that sense of peace, since time immemorial, has been called the condition called paradise or heaven. So there is the expression seventh heaven. Also, there is a soft drink that alludes to the crown chakra. In Korea, however, this soft drink is called cider. In Europe and America and other countries, it is called what? 7-Up. Yes, 7-Up. It implies, of course, it's a clever marketing tactic. It implies that if you drink that drink, you go to seventh heaven. Which I dare to challenge because of the huge amount of sugar in soft drinks. I think it actually does the opposite. But it's interesting how they present, how they use these kind of concepts from an ancient past. Most people probably don't even know that this is related to the crown chakra. But 7-Up, seventh heaven, crown chakra. It makes a connection with all those wonderful characteristics that are located there. Characteristics that everybody possesses. Except that in most people they are dormant because there is no energy to fuel the crown chakra. For that, we have to go back to the concept that since the Big Bang, since the coming into existence of the universe, energy condensed from energy to gas to liquid to solid matter. And it continues in our body from spirit all the way down to the lowest chakra, Muladhara chakra. So we have a tendency to have our the center of gravity of our consciousness is basically in our belly, naturally. Education does something that brings it up to to the mental body, to Ajna Chakra, but not in a structured way, not in the way that we do in yoga. And education also comes with a lot of burdening of the mind and the memory with the memorization of lots of theories and things that you need to memorize simply to pass tests. The crown chakra in sattva expresses itself in intuition, and the characteristics described as that of a king: wisdom, vision, unjudgmental, unbiased. In a state of light Shakti domination, this chakra expresses itself in sheer intelligence. Now, I draw your attention to the word light. In a state of light Shakti domination. Why light? Because when we talked about the other chakras, we didn't use the word light. We just said in a state of sattva, in a state of tamas, in a state of rajas. Here you have in a state of light Shakti domination. The reason for this is simple. The crown chakra doesn't function if there is no sattva. So there is a firm basis of sattva, and there are small fluctuations between tamas and rajas, between Shiva and Shakti domination, because that determines how you function. If you would be totally 100% sattvic in the crown chakra, you are in that Buddha condition where you do not manifest anymore. So nobody is in that condition. We are in a relatively firm condition of sattva with small fluctuations to the left and to the right, determining how we function at that moment. When there is Shiva domination, it manifests as sheer love, ananda, unconditional love, the manifestation of the heart. So, either intellect, sharp intellect, when there is a slight rajas, or sheer love, when there is a slight tamas. Now about paradise, I've referred to it a couple of times already. Last week we talked about the devil. We have talked about hell, the concept of hell, a couple of weeks ago. And most people grow up learning and then believing that heaven and hell are something outside of us. We are taught since childhood onwards, we are taught that if we behave well, if we avoid committing sins, we may be allowed to enter heaven, to enter paradise when we die. And at the same time, we are told if we do sin, if we do not live our lives in a good way as good human beings, we have the risk of ending up in hell, in the fire of hell, when we die. So many people think, well, I'll worry about that later, not realizing that they're already living in hell. Because most people, the condition of hell and heaven lie within us. Not when we die, now, here and now. Hell is the suffering that most people, the majority of people are suffering from anxiety, from worries and doubts. Most people suffer from instability caused by lower emotions and desires that lead to all kinds of conflicts with the people we love most. It is that restlessness, that instability, that emotion that accompanies this kind of way of functioning that is considered the condition called hell. Heaven Heaven is the condition when your energy is on the other side, on the top, in the crown chakra. And it is here and now. That is why we have the yamas and the niyamas, to help us avoid any kind of circumstances or situations that cause emotions, conflict, instability, worries, doubt, fears, that which we call hell. It's no surprise also that heaven is up there and hell is down there. But it's not down there, it's here, down here, and up here. Not up there, up here. Remember this. Remember also that you are in charge. You are the one to decide whether you live in hell or in heaven. The problem we are facing here is that hell is almost automatic. Most people, out of ignorance, lack of consciousness, all the time, continuously do things that cause us to live in a condition we call hell. What we need to do is something like yoga. The system of yoga provides us all the tools and the knowledge, the insight, to create heaven on earth. But not easy. We have to work hard to get there. We have to reverse the tendency of energy to condense towards the bottom. We have to force it to go up again. That is maybe the easy part, because all you have to do for that is follow a systematic form of exercise that technically reverses that energy from condensing to go up again. The more difficult part is to make the adjustments mentally, to start being alert, to start looking at the law of cause and effect, that when you hurt, when you have a conflict, when you are facing doubt, worry, fear, that you do not just accept it as it is, but that you investigate, that you ask yourself, where is this coming from? What is causing this? And most importantly, what did I do that led to this? What is my role in me ending up in this situation that led to fear, that led to conflict, that led to all the lower emotions and desires, that led basically to the condition we call hell? We have to apply the yamas and the niyamas. We have to be bluntly honest with ourselves, truthfulness. We have to stop committing violence, committing theft. We have to start being aware of our desires. Non-desire does not mean eliminating all desires, but it means being conscious of them in the first place and then determining whether you follow up on it, whether it's an essential desire, a needed desire, or whether it is a useless one that only leads to more instability and trouble. Purity applies to all the previous ones. That you ask yourself, what is my motive here? Why am I doing this? Why am I thinking like this? Why am I feeling like this? Am I being honest with myself? Am I being truthful with myself? So it's hard work. To get to heaven is hard work. Yoga basically provides us a stairway to get there. Now page 2 starts with the sensitive issue of ego, which we have talked about many times already, because I find it so important that we start understanding the concept of ego. Many people talk about ego without actually really knowing what it means. So from lesson 1 I probably have already annoyed you with ego-related issues. So here you have it again. Ego, the ego must die. We must sacrifice ourselves, our truly beloved selves. And this concept has been known throughout history and has led to the cruel practice of actually sacrificing. Usually we do not sacrifice ourselves, we pick others to be sacrificed. So I have told you from the beginning that this religious concept of the ego needing to die should not be taken literal. Because the reality is, ego has a very important function. Everybody has an ego. And it is true, some people have big egos, some people have small egos. But it is the way that ego manifests that is important. I have to go into politics again to give you just a very easy, clear example of two big egos, of which one is harmonious and leads to constructive developments, and one that is leading to chaos, to conflict, and ultimately to destruction. People with big egos naturally manifest on the higher levels of society, one way or another. You either end up high on the ladder of politics, or high on the ladder of corporate life, in your career, or some other form of making a difference, standing out. Now, Trump and Obama, or Trump and Biden, can be very easily compared to see how ego can go both ways. Both people with huge egos, so they have naturally manifested on high levels of society, one in very destructive ways, and one or two actually, the one before and the one after the destructive one, in very harmonious, always looking for constructive ways of solving problems, always looking for synergy with other leaders and other countries and other people, always looking for considering the population, considering the well-being of the population. Look what is happening now. They are trying to implement all kinds of new policies that helps poor people take care of their children. They want to offer free education. They want to delete study loans that people sometimes pay for almost the rest of their lives. Healthcare, all these kind of things. Well, the other one, I don't want to say his name too often. The other one was only trying to fill his own pockets and the pockets of his friends, basically. And even eliminating those things, those policies that help poor people. So, so here you see ego cannot die, it will not die. But the ego needing to die basically is symbolism for getting a handle on it, for not allowing ego to run wild and take control of you. Ego under control is energy canalized, is leading. You can use your power for good things, for mankind, as opposed to selfish gain and greed. So, how do we deal with this issue of ego? First of all, we must understand how it works. A thought loaded with ego, a thought combined with ego, is what causes emotion. So emotion is a thought. A thought is nothing, is neutral, is objective. But the moment that ego steps in, we identify with the thought. So you can you can look at a flag, the Korean flag or the Dutch flag. It's just a flag. The objective thought is, oh, that's a piece of cloth and it is colored. But the moment that I identify that flag being Dutch, and I'm Dutch, and my chest starts to swell and I feel that pride of being Dutch, nothing to be proud of. It's just a piece of cloth. No, but the emotion comes in, the thought, emotion, ego, identification. And we do this all the time. That is why we get angry. Why do you get angry? Anger is an emotion. There is a thought. You notice something, somebody's behavior. The moment that you identify with that, what is happening there, and you see that it is insincere towards you, the objective observation then turns into an emotion, and you get angry. So, if you compare that, you can easily see why philosophies, not only yoga, but philosophies all around the world, religions, they all talk about ego needing to die. Because if we become emotional, it never ends well. It always leads to turmoil. It always leads to small or big conflict. It always leads to feeling unhappy. So if we can get a handle on that, our lives will become much more peaceful and happy. But also, we will just save ourselves a lot of energy that goes lost on a daily basis, almost on a permanent daily basis. We are wasting a lot of precious energy because of ego, because we are constantly scattering energy with emotions. That means indirectly or directly, actually, energy that you have available that is not being used, that is not scattered or wasted, will naturally find its way and manifest. It will manifest in the way that you work. It will manifest in the way that you lay out your future and pursue that. Many people never move, never change, only when forced. If I compared myself with 25 years ago with now, and I set that off against the people that I know, family members, friends, etc., I can see a constant process, dynamic process of change, evolution in me, while not seeing that in most other people. Most other people simply got older. But in terms of transformation, very little has happened. And the transformation that have happened are more on a material level. They have a higher paying job in the meantime. They have they have climbed the ladder of their career and made promotions and what have you. Maybe they moved from a rented home to a home they now own. So it's merely material changes that have taken place, which is not bad. I'm not saying that's bad. But what is missing in the picture is the truly human transformation in terms of manifesting your true self, which is a function of the crown chakra. So controlling ego saves a lot of energy, and that energy will naturally be canalized towards things that really matter in life. And one of those things that happen is that you take control of your destiny. That sounds really strange because everybody thinks, well, I'm the boss. I'm smart, I can think myself, I am in charge of my destiny. We think, we believe. But in reality, our destiny is determined by our past, the way that we are conditioned by our culture, our education, our upbringing, also by experiences, traumatic experiences, emotional experiences, and current affairs. Everyday things happen that influence us and cause us to do things involuntarily just as a reaction upon the circumstances. As a yogi, you will not function like that anymore. Because you connect with the heart, which is happening in the crown chakra. You connect with the true self, the self with a capital S. You become what we call seated in the self, svarupasthiti. Being seated in the self means that you shake off all this conditioning from the past. You rise above your traumatic experiences that otherwise would control your happiness even today, even though those things happened 20 or 30 years ago. It's still determining who you are and what you do and how you feel, more importantly, today. You rise above that more and more. You become more and more of an observer rather than bathing in that emotion or that experience. That energy that is being freed up then is utilized to connect with your heart's content, your true self, capital S. And that is what you will, from that moment on, start pursuing in your life. And that is called Dharma. Dharma is destiny. Generally, the word Dharma is used a lot in Buddhism, and is mostly referred to or translated as destiny, but the real meaning of Dharma is essence. Your essence. Your true nature. Most people will never live up to their true essence because their true essence is buried under the conditioning of the past. Our true essence is buried under not only conditioning, like education, upbringing, culture, media, but very important and big influence is our past experiences, good and bad. And that true essence will never manifest. We will just dutifully live our lives based on what our teachers taught us, our parents expected from us, and the government wants us to live up to. And out of ignorance, because simply we are not conscious of it, we go along with that. There is a very interesting phenomenon that became clear as a result of the coronavirus. If you follow the news, you see that all economies are struggling tremendously now. You know why? Economies are booming, but there are no people to fuel the economies. There are no people to drive the trucks. There are no people to man the factories, the machines, the restaurants, the cleaners. Nobody wants to go back to work anymore. You know what happened as a result of Corona? the isolation, the solitude that was forced upon people as a result of that pandemic has allowed people in an unstructured way, not in a yoga class way, to connect with their true self. And they realize that the life that they lived for so many years, they don't want to go back to that anymore. They feel this is not how I want to spend the rest of my life. Behind the wheel of a truck, behind a machine in the factory, working 10, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. People don't want to go back to that anymore. As a yogi, you go through that process also, but in a more structured way. And of course, you understand what is happening, so you will try to control that process and make a gradual shift. You will make a gradual shift from your conditioned life to the life that is based on your true essence. The people that now have chosen not to go back to work, they will sooner or later get in trouble. Because the social security will simply dry up. And instinctively they feel good about not going back to the machines and the trucks and the restaurants and what have you, the service industry, even in healthcare. But they do not understand that it is because they have discovered some new aspect of themselves that has always been there. They do not realize that they have touched upon an essence, their dharma. And so they will have to, at some point, they will have to violate, go against their intuition, their feeling, and basically sacrifice themselves again to make a living, to make it possible to pay the bills again. We talked about the heart chakra last week. Fulfilling wishes is very much related to this dharma. Because when you connect with your dharma, your true essence, you have some faint idea of what you truly want to do with your life. Functioning in the crown chakra, you realize also that it's not something that you can change overnight. That is going to take many years, if not decades, to fulfill. But you have vision. So you see that there is a process, that you have to go through certain steps, that you have to prepare for possible change, to make change possible in the first place. So you just quietly go to work and you start at the beginning. Remember this story that I told you about how I came to Korea. It took me 9 years to prepare. My friends all came here within a year. And while at that time I was sad and jealous and frustrated, I now look back and I understand. And I feel good about the fact that it took 9 years, because it was, while they were already here and already came back to their old life, they sadly had to go back to their old life. I came here and laid the foundation. Those 9 years of preparing has laid the foundation for my dharma, for manifesting what I truly want to do with my life. Had I not done that, I also sadly would have had to return to my old life, to my old job, to my old house, to my old everything. Everything that I wanted to get away from. That is dharma. Functioning in the crown chakra gives you this vision. It gives you the courage. Courage is a quality of the crown chakra. It's the opposite of fear. Fear in the bottom, Muladhara chakra. Courage in the crown chakra. That doesn't mean that you don't have fear anymore, It means that you can deal with fear. It means that you can rationalize fear, overrule fear. Vision. Patience. You know what patience is? Patience is understanding there is a process and that it cannot be hurried. Every time that you try to hurry something that is subject to a step-by-step process, it always leads to failure. In your crown chakra, you know that. And that is where you get your patience from. The patience is not something that you can learn from a book, a parent, or a teacher. Of course, it helps if they guide you as a child. It's really something, it's a quality in the crown chakra that is based on vision. In your vision, you see the process, the steps, and that helps you to simply be patient and go through the steps, one by one. And you also know that if you don't go through the steps, nothing will ever happen. No matter how much you meditate, no matter how much you function in the crown chakra, God helps only those that help themselves. You must actively engage to eventually fulfill your wishes or fulfill your dharma, which is very much the same thing. Questions? Okay. Let's have a short break then.